You're listening to the Dre Area Sports Show, live on YouTube and X. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
The Dre Area Sports Show is brought to you by SeatGeek. Use promo code Dre Area Sports to save $20 on your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. And we are also brought to you by Taryn Roy, the SEO Optimizer. If you're looking to boost your YouTube channel, then check out the SEO Optimizer. Use promo code Dre Area Sports to start your free trial today. Power Brand Systems. If you're looking to build a website for your small business or YouTube channel, then check out Power Brand Systems. Use promo code 300POWER to save up to $300 on your first purchase at Power Brand Systems.
Thing I wanted to ask you about was there was the draft pick in Nick Martin. Now, I love Nick Martin. I think this guy flies around the field. He has great energy, great tackler. The guy had 140 tackles, I think, last season. Like, when you're looking at someone to replace a guy like Dre Greenlaw, this guy's flying all over the field, and I was always a big fan of him. I was drafting him in mock drafts. I was like, yeah, this guy's great. Only 5'11", so he's a little bit on the shorter side, but we've seen the trend in the NFL where it's the linebackers that are getting a little bit smaller, but they want to be faster, and they can get to the running backs. You know, they can go from sideline to sideline. I think this is a guy that can do that for you. My only problem with this draft pick was that I thought it was too soon. This was a draft pick that I think the Niners were like, yeah, we want Nick Martin. We want him. But it was like, wait a minute, dude. You could have gotten him probably in the next round. But they were so paranoid that they weren't going to get him that they took him, I felt, a little early. Now, the guy did have a knee injury that he's coming back from, so there's a little bit of that we have to kind of, hope that heals correctly and he could rehab, properly in order to be on the field. Because obviously he'll be competing with D. Winters for that number 2 spot next to Fred Warner. We know that Nick Martin is a huge fan of Fred Warner. So he looks up to him. He's an inspiration for him. Imagine, this is a guy that he even owned a Fred Warner jersey. That's how much he respected Fred Warner. Now he gets to play with him. So there's a lot of good stories around this guy. But again, it just kind of felt like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And here's why. Look, I loved Darius Alexander, but he went with the first pick of the Giants in round 3. Yeah, I almost had a heart attack. Harold Fannin Jr., he went number 3 in round 3. And I was like, okay, there's another guy. And it was weird because a lot of the guys that I thought the Niners would take later in the draft just started going. We're talking about Harold Fannin. We're talking about Kyle Williams, Isaac, how do you say his last name? Tesla?
Yeah.
Isaac Tesla.
But the Lions traded up for him. So it was like three third-round picks for 1 third-round pick. So they put a lot of draft capital into getting him, which could pay off, could not. Who knows?
And then, there was a trade with Chicago and Buffalo ended up getting Landon Jackson. So you saw a lot of names going off the board
Nick Martin,
quick.
high school teammate, by the way.
Yeah. And so they took Nick Martin. Now, the name I loved, the player, I'm all for it. But I was a little shocked that they took him in the 3rd round. When you got Princely, I can never say his last name, Umanil, I can't even say it. I'm going to butcher it. The edge rusher, I thought, he would have been good from Mississippi. Jordan Birch was still out there. Yeah. I'm just looking at names. Jacob Parrish, Noel Williams, Jamari Caldwell.
Yeah.
I would have thought, okay, this is just me. I would have thought you could have taken Jamari Caldwell, then taken Nick Martin in the next round, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's funny because this draft pick is one that I think most Niner fans kind of said, all right, what are we doing? Okay, and my first reaction was, this is Robert Saleh's 3rd-round running back. This is him reaching for a player that he loves, or somebody in that building loves, and says, I don't care who else is there. I want to get him in the building. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you can go through the draft process, the tape, the film, the meetings, and just somehow find a way to be infatuated with the player or not. And we all do that. In some cases it was CJ West, who San Francisco got. In some cases it was Vernon Broughton, who the Saints got later in this year's draft. But yeah, this is the one where the consensus, I think this was like the biggest reach, like maybe almost in Niner history with this regime. So that is the head scratching part of like, could you have gotten him later? And I think, you can go look at the other draft picks in this year's class. You can look at, Jordan Watkins, receiver. A lot of the slot potential burners, guys that ran 4.3, 4.2 were off the board. They said, oh crap, if we don't get our guy, we're not getting one at all. And okay, so you can justify it. Okay, you wanted to get your guy. Maybe the board dictated things for you. Where in this case, it felt like San Francisco, and maybe there was some intel they got that said he wasn't going to be there, pick 100, but it just kind of looks like they reached big because they loved him a lot. And you go to the draft board, like you were mentioning, Jalen Noel was there. I'd rather have Jalen Noel than Jordan Watkins. That's just me. I'd rather have Dylan Fairchild than Connor Colby. That's just me. Mm-hmm. I would rather have Jacob Parrish than Upton Stout. That's just me.
Yes.
I think that it was a reach. I think that, and one of the biggest things that has to be clarified here is that it's not an indication as to how good or bad Nick Martin's going to be at the NFL level.
No, not at all.
And I think Nick Martin can play. He's got the speed you want. He can go, from one sideline to the other with the flash. He's a player that has blitzing upside where if you want to run those stunts and free up people, I don't think he starts year one. I don't think he should start year one. The coverage in space is an issue, but even the length he has to kind of clog passing lanes isn't there, but to get off blockers, as a blitzer, to get to the quarterback, to use that speed, get ball carriers. He obviously had like 140 tackles in 2023 before the injury. In that exact same year, he had 60 defensive run stops. So he's a guy that can go around and get tackles, get sacks, limit how far running backs and receivers can get downfield. And he has a really high work ethic, and he was a team captain. So those things matter to San Francisco. This feels more like a character pick, and then hopefully your athletic traits can build upon that, which isn't a bad thing, but those guys you probably get on day 3. I'd rather have Nick Martin than Curtis Rourke in round 7. I'd rather trade up for Nicholas Martin in round 6 or 5. And I think that had San Francisco walked away with, say, Jacob Parrish here, then you fast forward to pick 100, maybe you're talking about moving up a little bit into the draft and maybe getting a tackle. Like, that's the difference of, like, San Francisco clearly believed the draft board was going to fall their way at pick 100, and it didn't. They wanted the tackle. They clearly said, oh, we thought the board was going to fall differently. Oh, where? Because the Raiders took back-to-back offensive linemen right in front of you with Charles Grant and the guy from Texas Tech. So this is one of the more contentious picks amongst fans. I agree with it that it should be. But there's also intel where, San Francisco took that kicker in round 3, and then 4 picks later, so did the Patriots. So maybe there was some intel they got, but the draft board shows you that there was not a linebacker taken after Nick Martin at pick 75 going down the board. Not one more in round 3 at all.
Not one more. That's what I was looking at.
And that's the confusing part of like, okay, like what intel did you have to say? Because the next linebacker didn't go till pick 107 to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And which pick? And which linebacker was that? Was that Chris Paul?
Jack Kaiser.
Jack Kaiser, exactly. Notre Dame.
Yeah, right. So like, it wasn't Chris Paul Jr. It wasn't other guys who you interviewed. So it's a confusing pick, but one that could pay dividends down the road. He is healthy, from my understanding, and it felt more like a character pick compared to a play pick. But
yeah,
if they want to run stunts, blitz the quarterback, and create pressure where they didn't get a pass rusher on the interior, maybe Nick Martin can be that for you in some form or fashion.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more of this content, then check out some of these recommended videos right here on your screen. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by going to my website, which is nicotina.net, and there are memberships available under Dre Area Sports.